Hello, Dan Harvey here for Boris FX with a look at a couple of the new tools coming to BCC 10 for OFX. I'll be working in DaVinci Resolve. I'll begin with BCC Light Leaks. Here's the clip I want to stylize, provided by our friends at Artbeats. I'll select a serial node, open the effects list, choose BCC Light Leaks and drag it in. It's applied with its default settings. The goal here is to give this video footage a vintage Super 8 feel. In order to better visualize what the effect is doing, I'll minimize the contrast in the preceding node so that we can see the results over grey. As with all BCC effects, I can select and preview presets in the effects browser. I'll set the effect apply mode to a normal blend and twirl open the stylize menu where I can set opacity, hue and other general settings for the texture I'm applying. Mutation rate determines the speed at which the texture changes over time. Currently, one of the 4 available texture generators is active. I'll twirl open the generator menu to edit the texture properties. As I reduce the master scale, we can better see the fractal texture which is being generated. This is procedural and scales up without loss of quality. Reducing the threshold results in more of the texture being applied. The colour pots determine the texture colour, and the middle colour position can be adjusted here. I can also fine-tune the frequency and detail of the texture. Now I'll disable the upstream node where I've reduced the contrast in order to see the result over my source clip. I'll change the apply mode to screen and adjust the opacity, exposure and saturation in the stylize menu. I'd like to localize the effect, so I'll select Ellipse from Shape Options in the Generator menu. I'll turn on View Shape and set the size and position as required. Fade determines the edge softness. I'll toggle Bypass on the current node with the Shift D shortcut. Now the light leaks emanate from the direction of the light source, which makes more physical sense. Now I'll switch to the editing workspace and select a timeline containing a jump cut within the same scene. I'll open the OFX transitions list and select Light Leaks Dissolve. The green highlight on the cut point indicates the presence of handles. I'll drag the Light Leaks Dissolve to a cut point with handles to create the transition. Enabling the inspector view and selecting the transition reveals general transition options such as duration, which I'll adjust here. In Open FX options, I can launch the FX browser and select presets and fine-tune the effect with the stylize and generator menus. Now I'll take a look at BCC 10 Video Glitch, which emulates analog and digital signal distortion. I'd like to apply this to the entire timeline, so I'll switch from clip to timeline mode and insert a serial corrector node to affect the whole timeline and drag BCC Video Glitch to it. Now the effect is applied to the whole timeline with its default settings. Glitch intensity is the master intensity control for the 4 glitch types. Block damage emulates digital artifacts and block errors. Shift moves horizontal scan lines or rows of scan lines. Shake moves the entire picture, and flicker changes brightness over time. I'll remove the timeline node, switch back to clip mode and apply the effect to a single clip. As usual, I can select and preview stored presets in the effects browser. The changes in effect intensity over time are controlled procedurally. In order to visualize this, I'll display the curve view which shows the intensity changes over time for the 4 glitch types. I'll disable all but the block damage effect and focus on that. As I increase effect intensity, this is reflected in the curve height. In the general menu, adjusting the interval value changes the time interval between glitch cycles. In this example, there will be 4 glitch cycles during this clip. Duration changes the length of the glitch cycle. Changing peak position determines whether the peak intensity for effect is applied at the beginning, middle, or end of an effect cycle. Randomness may be applied to effect intensity, interval, and duration, and may be varied independently for each effect type. Now I'll tweak the block damage intensity, run length and size as required. Now I'll focus on shift and its effect on this graphic clip. I'll set the overall effect intensity, reduce the randomness and increase the density, which applies the effect to a larger picture area. Run length determines the amount of gaps between shifted lines. I'll set line duplication and jitter, which randomizes the line shift, and set line drop amount and opacity. Now I'll focus on shake. I'll reduce randomness and set the amount of shake in the X and Y axes as required. RGB split applies a different transformation to each channel. Reducing this means that all channels are affected equally. Skew and rotation transformations may also be applied. Now I'll focus on flicker, which applies changes to brightness and saturation based on the interval and duration settings in the main effect menu. Next, I'll take a look at controlling effect intensity with audio levels. I'll change trigger mode from automatic to intensity threshold, which can be set by keyframes or in this case by audio levels when I enable Beat Reactor. I've turned on the curve display to illustrate this graphically. I'll select the audio source file to use, in this case the same source used in my timeline. I can control up to 3 parameters with Beat Reactor. I'll select glitch intensity as the first parameter to be controlled. Now I'll sample the trigger level from the audio waveform display and set the trigger threshold. Note how the peak effect value is applied when the audio signal matches the sampled level. As in the previous example of light leaks, I can also apply video glitch as a transition. I'll select BCC cross glitch from the OFX transitions list and drag it to a cut point with handles to apply the transition. These are just a couple of the new tools coming to BCC 10 for OFX. For more great post-production tutorials, check out borisfx.com.